WrestleMania 42 is in the books, and we are a few hours away from the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. Welcome to Zeus Backstage, everybody. I am the host, Zeus. If you are new to the channel, give us a like, a subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts on WrestleMania. And I'm joined by an esteemed panel this evening. I'm joined by Mr. Kephfas. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Z. Thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome. I'm joined by Deejay. What's up?
Yo, yo.
And I'm joined by Brandon. You good, Brandon?
I'm good. What's up? What's up? What's up?
We got the hosts of the DJ and Heel show with us tonight, which is always nice. We're going to talk about WrestleMania. This is a comprehensive review of what I thought was a tale of two shows. I'm not sure if you guys agree. But before we get into the nitty gritty, I just want to go around the room. Just a quick high level, maybe one or two sentences. What did you think of the show overall from night one and night two? DJ, I'll start with you.
Night one, it's kind of like, I've been seeing the memes of it. It's like night one was booked by TKO and night two was booked by the more wrestling side of the fucking company. It was definitely two different sides of a coin. Night one wasn't terrible, but the main event soured us to where this night started off good, ended off good. Middle was, hit or miss. Actually, Jaden Rhea was really good too, though.
What about you, Brandon?
Night one was just a mess. That's all I could come up with. It was just a mess. I don't know if it's, how they decided which matches were going on in the show and that made one night completely lopsided. I mean, I'm going to not even take the TKO stuff into, that basically surrounded just the main event. So, I don't think TKO had their hands in everything else besides the main event. I just don't understand. And it seems like to pretty much be something that's been going on for a couple of years now, that, it's always seems that one night is lopsided.
What about you, Kephfas?
Yeah, just two totally separate events. I don't think night one was worthy of being a WrestleMania show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think any of us knew how bad night one was until we watched night two. I think that's probably the best way I can explain it.
And you were there live, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it like from a live crowd perspective in terms of, obviously we're watching on TV at home and there are certain things we can see where we feel the crowd isn't where it needs to be. Did you kind of get that sense in a live experience, particularly for night one?
So I went back and watched a couple of the matches I didn't really pay too close attention to, and it sounded a lot quieter on TV than it did in person. It was very, very loud in person. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good event. It was fun. Obviously, you miss a lot when you're there live because you're not hearing the commentary. So it's a different experience. I probably, if I would have watched it, like on TV, I probably would have hated it even more because of all the ads and all the other things that everyone was talking about online. We didn't really see that there. We saw some of the clips from the documentaries and a couple Mortal Kombat commercials and things like that, but they didn't really go hard on any adverts. They just had that little time ticker thing until.
Was it Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter?
Or
both?
No. Yeah, we saw the Street Fighter 2, but it was Mortal Kombat as well. Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
didn't
saw
see that.
Yeah, they had both on ESPN.
Yeah, Netflix as well. Yeah, Netflix, it was mainly huge chunks of the Hogan documentary, and then your typical beeping one we get on a Raw and SmackDown for like 20 seconds in between promos for Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And it was definitely more noticeable this year than it has been in previous years. But that's probably an ESPN thing, I'm guessing. I don't know how it works over there in terms of the actual broadcast. But yeah, night one, I agree. I think night one for me felt like, the reason I graded it so low is because it felt like it wouldn't have been out of place on a Monday Night Raw, and that's not what we should be getting for a WrestleMania show. It's not even as if the matches themselves were just terribly bad. It was just the flow of the show. Some of the matches were just really short. The overall production of it, it just felt like a weekly show, and that not much effort was put into it. I don't know how you guys feel about the overall flow.
There wasn't a lot of wrestling.
No.
Yeah, in night one there wasn't a lot. It was a lot of dancing, a lot of just interferences or different variables. I would probably say this is out of character, but I'd probably say the most wrestling we saw on night one was from the women's tag match.
And even that went 8 minutes, which is
And
crazy.
Seth and Gunther, but that one didn't feel that long.
Yeah,
No,
because
which is probably a good thing.
There was a lot of action, so it didn't feel long. But I agree, night one, it felt like it was more downtime than wrestling. And in hindsight, you can say some of the things were rushed. I still die on the hill that Liv Morgan and Stephanie was perfect for the way it was, especially now knowing what we know.
Yeah, but you look at if you look at just like the Randy fight, Cody, there wasn't a lot of wrestling in that either. It was selling injuries. That's it.
That was a really strange. We'll get to that. I had a really strange experience watching that match in terms of, what am I being led down in this match? In terms of production kind of thing.
Best best response that the night had in person was probably the Seth Gunther match from what I saw.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into it. Night one. We won't spend too much on, some of these individual matches, but we did kick off with the Usos and LA Knight versus the Vision with I Show Speed. This went 7 minutes, 8 seconds, and I'm not a stopwatch guy, like I'm sure you are, but I think it is pertinent to, reference that in a 4.5 hour show, this is how much wrestling we actually got. I thought this was I wasn't really expecting anything from this, so I didn't really mind this. And I did like the spot at the end with Speed doing the jump through the table on Logan Paul. Would I have started WrestleMania with this? I can see why they did, because they're doing that 3 hour on ESPN, and it's to get guys like Speed with a huge following to kind of tune in. But what did you guys think of this, Brandon? You want to kick us off?
It was a Monday Night Raw match. It was a TV match, and like you said, pretty much it was ESPN 2. They were broadcasting on. Speed has a ridiculous following. Oh, DJ, what did you say? He's got you said it to me the other day. How much does Speed have?
That this motherfucker's got Drake money.
Yeah, but how many?
Rich.
Right. What's his following? He's got like.
I want to say he had 20 million on Twitch or something like that.
Yeah, I mean he's got 20 million followers. So even if you get 1% of that of his fan base watching it, I'm not going to I can't do the math in my head like that, but that's a ridiculous amount of eyes. So It makes sense why it was there, and it didn't need to be longer than it was. And you got the viral moment with him doing the splash through Logan Paul. So
yeah, and he didn't take the pin either, which was nice. It was Austin Theory who took the pin from LA Knight. Kephfas, what was this moment like in the crowd? The jump from Speed to Logan Paul.
It was a repeat of what Logan did some time ago. For new fans, I guess it was, they ate it up. The audience ate it up. But something to keep in mind, it took forever to get into Allegiant. So I know why.
Really?
I know why they set that up as the first match. It was the hype match. It just took forever to get in there. Night 2 had more people, but it didn't take as long. So I get why they did this match, but like Brandon said, this should have been just on any standard SmackDown or Raw. It was not a WrestleMania worthy match.
DJ, how you feel about this one?
See, I didn't have a super problem. I thought this was a good opening match. We had 1:30 of Jey Uso, which I fucking loved. I said specifically during the match, the less Jey Uso we get, the better this match will be. All Jey Uso got was the hot tag, got his shit in, hit a spear, and got the fuck up out of literally thrown the fuck up out of there, and we never seen him again.
He's good in small doses.
Exactly. I could take Jey Uso in small doses, but if he's sitting here having a 15-minute single match, I'm going to sleep.
Well, LA Knight got the win over Austin Theory. I'm hoping this is the end of LA Knight and the Vision completely now, because it's been going on for what feels like forever. So
I will say this, though, Zeus. That match made no sense whatsoever from a creative standpoint, because the Usos, specifically Jey, weren't they pissed? Wasn't he pissed with LA Knight just a couple months ago?
They have been for a while.
And
I think they've kind of been.
Now they're buddies.
They've kind of been reluctant allies. For a few weeks. I don't know what it's leading to. I guess this match also was probably brought about just due to injuries, in terms of, people not being available. I don't know what the original plan was, whether the Vision were just going to defend the tag titles against someone else with Bronson Reed if he was fit. Well, I don't know what the original plan was if nobody was injured, but it was innocent for what it was. But I agree with Kephfas. I think this probably could have been on Monday Night Raw. But in terms of the speed factor, it's probably just from a TKO perspective, just getting the viewership in. But we then moved on to the second match, which was in this first hour, which was Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre in an unsanctioned match. I was kind of disappointed by this in terms of what I was expecting, given what these two have done going into the show and the nature of the match. And I wonder, are we at the mercy here of it being on ESPN and therefore we weren't going to get anything, too extreme in terms of what we've been, accustomed to in matches like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn last year, a couple of years ago. This was fine, but I was probably expecting a bit more. Brandon, what did you think?
It was very homogenized. It was PG. I think we're overusing the unsanctioned, the no holds barred, whatever variation you want to call it, is like, why are we doing this if we're not going to actually, do something beyond what we see regularly anyway? Again, I don't think it had anything to do with it being on ESPN. I think this is just the WWE way. I also think they weren't going to do color simply because they planned on doing color in the main event. But I feel like it could have been like they didn't even fight through the crowd. Like there was just nothing that really screamed, unsanctioned like that. WWE's not responsible for damages to anyone. And there was nothing to be responsible for. It was just the same thing. So you could have just said it was a street fight, and it would have been the same thing. You could have just said it was, a no holds barred, no DQ. There was nothing that literally screamed, unsanctioned.
Yeah. And given what they've done going in as well, they've fallen off buildings, they've had handcuffs involved, and they've had some, quite good stuff going into it. DJ, what did you think?
I've been defending it somewhat to an extent to Nick all weekend because I was like, everything leading up to the match qualified it to be an unsanctioned match. But the match itself did not qualify this to be an unsanctioned match. So and also the reason probably there was no blood is because they knew for both nights there were going to be blood in the main events, and they didn't want to take away from that. They wanted to, have those blood parts be kind of highlighted with no blood beforehand. Unlike on the other side of the fence where sometimes we're going to get blood 3 or 4 times in the same card and the main event. So it's like WWE is more old fashioned in that way where they want to keep blood special, especially with the lack of amount how they do it. They understand that blood is necessary when done right. But when you overuse it, it won't work. So I didn't have a super problem with this match. I definitely think the pacing of the match itself was wrong. I think this match should have had the Gunther Seth pace, and Gunther and Seth could have went the Drew Jacob pace. The slower, where Gunther works a leg, works an arm, works the audience kind of style, where it's not fast paced. I thought these two should have went more of that pace, but
yeah, I think
it was terrible.
No, I think if you just showed somebody these two matches without showing them the build, you'd probably assume that Seth and Gunther had the longer, more kind of feud, wouldn't you? Yeah. Kephfas, what did you think of this one? I know we've spoken about this.
Yeah. So
previously.
This is one of the matches I went back and watched last night. And it was even more. So I can say this match is very sterile, very safe, very rehearsed. When I watched it, when I streamed it, it was even more safe than what I had thought in person. I felt like there wasn't a lot of variability in this match. There wasn't room for error. Not that they couldn't make any errors, but that they over rehearsed it. So all the spots were perfect, even more perfect when I watched them on TV. I don't really think, and a big part of it, I'll just say this. I think Drew is very, very rehearsed with hardcore matches, street fights, whatever you want to call them. I think Jacob isn't, though. So I think they had to over rehearse for Jacob to feel comfortable with the match. And And it was good for what it was, but it wasn't an exciting match for me. Everything was perfectly placed. All the spots were perfect. Sometimes you rely on some of that, uh, that element of chaos to make a match fun to watch, and that was missing from that match
Yeah,
completely.
I agree.
So
Yeah, I agree.
my question is, how much of the fact that Drew's in the middle of filming went into that as well? Because you couldn't have his face get damaged, you couldn't have him really get hurt because he's in the middle of filming a major, motion picture.
Probably a
Is
lot.
that Yeah, so I think that probably led into it. So in that case, they really should have done something differently when it comes to the stipulation.
Yeah, I agree. Right winner though. Are we all agreed? Right winner, Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Women's tag fatal 4-way. I don't think many people were excited going into this, given what we've got on television, because it's kind of just been rinse and repeat, get everybody on the card, DQs all over the place. But we did have, thanks to the dirt sheets, we did have a major spoiler on this one. The return of Paige was on the horizon in place of Nikki Bella. Obviously, I would have liked to have not known about this before watching the show, but it was a nice surprise to see Paige back. And I think we all knew who was winning when it happened. This match went 8 minutes 33. And again, the match itself, I don't really remember a lot of it. There's nothing really memorable that happened in this match. It was kind of just there. And I feel like with 8 people, that's kind of on average like a minute of wrestling per person. It just really didn't really fit the vibe of a short match. And obviously it kind of ended abruptly with Paige and Brie Bella winning. What did you guys think? Kephfas, do you want to kick us off on this one?
Sure. Yeah, it was. It was one of those matches. Again, I don't think it was a WrestleMania caliber match. Paige came out to a pretty massive ovation. She kept up pretty well for being out of it for a little bit. I think it was. I honestly did not expect for them to win. Because everyone has seen it. Everyone has seen the trajectory was Nikki and Brie would become champions. So I didn't think they would give it to somebody that's not Nikki and Brie, right? So I still don't know how that's going to materialize, what's going to come from that. Because obviously the end game is, Nikki's been, look, I don't like Nikki very much, but she's been putting in work for the last year that she's been here. She's been in a lot of matches. She's definitely not on a part-time schedule for being a retired wrestler. She's been putting in a lot of work. So for them to give the belt to Brie and Paige, I don't understand that personally. But I'm willing to see where it goes. I thought it was either going to be Lyra and Bailey or Lash and Nia were going to retain, but I did not expect this.
No, it's it makes you wonder how late the call was. And I guess with Paige winning the title, she's probably going to be a regular on television. So I guess we'll see. DJ, what do you think of this one?
So, kind of have the same thoughts as Kephfas here. I initially thought Nikki and Brie, and then honestly, I kind of kept to that thought because I still thought of the Hardy principle, where when they brought the Hardy back at WrestleMania, I think was it 28,
32,
30, 33.
33. I keep getting the fucking number wrong. When the Hardys came back for that ladder match, and kind of the writing was back on the wall, we're not going to make them lose, even though it's a multi-person match. We're going to give them the big pop and the big moment. Until Brandon talked me out of it and made me pick Bailey Lyra. So I forever blame him for that pick.
I went them as well.
So, but I think it was the right move. I'm a huge fan of Paige, even though she's not going to be what she used to be. You're going to notice her bump card is going to be like Edge's and Danielson's when they came back, extremely limited. And it's kind of good bringing her back in the tag division, because at least we could hide her weaknesses in tag matches for now until we can establish because I don't think WWE knows how much she can really do yet. You know what I mean? I don't think they watch much of her AEW run.
No, I mean, it didn't really happen for her in AEW, did it? She had that big moment at Wembley, and then
At Wembley, that's it. Her
Yeah.
return and her winning at Wembley. That's it. She didn't really have any like solid matches in AEW.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah, but
crazy now that we've got AJ Lee, the Bellas, and Paige all back in WWE television, which
That's gonna be
feels
fucking War Games next year. I want you to know that.
well, probably, yeah.
That's
Brandon, what
gonna
did you
be
think?
War Games. They're gonna bring back Michelle McCool as the fifth man.
Fifth man.
I don't think they're expecting much from Paige. I mean, in all honesty, I don't think her neck's gonna be an issue. It's not like the women's matches, go that extreme that you have to worry about that. But yeah, I thought that it was gonna be Lyra and Bailey, even without, even though knowing the replacement, because like Kephfas said, the plan has always been the Bella Twins. That's the whole point of them coming back. Getting Brie back was to win the tag title. So I was actually surprised, even though Paige did have her return, that they did put the titles on them. So, again, how long it's going to be? 3 weeks, Backlash. I think Bailey and Lyra are going to win it. I think that you're going to get a heel turn from them. And then, you can go ahead and see where Paige goes from there as far as like a singles. I mean, she's only 33.
Yeah.
Everyone
Which is
thinks
hard
she's
to believe. I thought she was like 35, 36. I'm
because
like,
she's
God
been
damn,
because
she only got like 4 years on me. The fuck?
because she's only been around for 18. She started when she was like 18 years old, in WWE. So it's like, because she's been around for so long, everyone's like, oh God, we're bringing all the old heads back. But she's only 33. She's literally 7 years younger than Roman Reigns, who's world champion. So,
Yeah.
it's like,
One
you
of the
know,
youngest on
ju-
the women's roster.
Yeah,
Funny enough.
pretty much, yeah.
yeah. So, I don't see an issue with her coming back. I was just surprised. I think it would have been a bigger moment if it wasn't ruined by the dirt sheets,
Yeah.
which, obviously is a whole different conversation. But, she got a great reaction from what I could tell. It came, whether they added to it or not, I'm not sure, but it sounded great. And at least they did Def Rebel her. So hopefully they won't.
I was
Oh,
glad to hear
God.
Stars in the Night. Yeah, Stars in the Night was one of my favorite CFO songs, like back in the day. And I think Paige gets a lot of appreciation because I think she signified that kind of turn from the Divas era into more of a women's wrestling product. She was like a kind of sort of catalyst for that to happen. So I do think she gets a lot of appreciation for that reason. So at this point, we're almost halfway through night one. And I'm thinking to myself, nothing's been bad, but there's still nothing that's really grabbing me here as a WrestleMania style or a WrestleMania caliber match. Next up, we went into Becky Lynch and AJ Lee for the WWE Women's Intercontinental Championship. I think the overall sentiment going into this was, I just want this to be over because it feels like these two have been feuding just forever and it hasn't really escalated as we feel it might need to. 8 minutes 15 for this one. This was all right. As soon as I saw Jessica Carr as the referee again, we're beating that horse and we are going to get that match. Brandon, what did you think of this one? Becky Lynch beating AJ Lee to regain the championship.
We knew that was happening. I mean, it only made sense. AJ's part-time, if that at all. We don't even know, based on like her post-match thing, she might be gone. So who knows? But it made sense for for Becky to win it. This felt like a Mania match for the first night. This was the first match I felt like a Mania match. It was horrible, Becky's entrance.
Oh, God, the Wonder Years.
The Wonder, yeah, they were lip syncing and they weren't even like. I thought maybe it was.
Good at it.
I thought maybe it was ESPN was off, like, by that split second, so it looked bad, but apparently everyone saw it. So, that really sucked I don't know why they couldn't sing it live. I really don't.
Because they can't sing, probably.
But, you got those Mania entrances. You got the kids coming out with AJ and all that and doing the skipping. The match itself was fine. I'm not the kind of person who's like, oh my God, they've been fighting for so long. Like, that's what a feud is. Old school in me is like, we've seen guys feud for 2 years because they were on TV as much. And it's not like they've been on TV, having matches week after week after week for months. It's literally only the 4th match in 7 months. So, and one of them was a tag match. So I didn't have a problem. Actually, this was only their second singles match because it
I
was
think
War
so, yeah.
Games. Yeah. So, I didn't have a problem with it. It went as expected. It didn't need to go more than 8 minutes, So the right person won. I think they're going to lead into at Backlash. We're going to get Jessica Carr finally in the ring against Becky. I don't think she's
Oh
going to win,
God.
but it makes sense from the point of view of where they've been going for months with Jessica Carr. And
Well,
it's
for
not
those who
like
don't
she's not.
know,
And I was going to
sorry,
say, it's
Karen.
not, I'm going to beat you to the punch.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
she's a trained wrestler. She was trained by the Dudley Boys, and she actually works Evolve under a mask.
Yeah.
So
Got a pretty, her character's called Calyx on Evolve,
yeah.
and she's got a pretty creepy look. It's like like an Uncle Howdy style mask that she wears. So, we might see some goofy shit between her and Becky Lynch between now and Backlash. Kephfas, what did you think of this one?
No interest. It was I think it was pretty obvious Becky was winning. I think again, I'm not a huge fan of hers, but Becky has elevated that title in a big way. AJ Lee has done literally nothing with it. So that went from being, right now, in my opinion, the IC women's title is the most prestigious title in the entire women's division. It is the true world champion title right now. And I think giving it back to Becky is probably the right move because literally it went from being a solid title to not being used at all in any meaningful way. So it was the right move. Becky got a pretty loud ovation actually for being a heel. Probably one of the loudest of the night. But yeah, I think it was the right move.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Becky's in that ratified air that we've discussed many times, where you're beyond being just a heel and you're going to get that positive reaction no matter what, It's almost like MJF, he's the heel, but, he gets a pop when his music hits. So I think that's
Randy.
the same.
Yeah. People love
So,
Becky Lynch. Yeah.
yeah, so I think even though she's a heel, you're still going to get that initial pop. And then, she'll make you boo her during the match. But, as far as when the music hits, even though it's not, the old theme, but,
And for those who aren't aware, AJ Lee did a post-show interview with Kathy Kelly, I think, or Jackie Redmond, and basically implied that she's going away for a while, if not forever.
Again.
Yeah. So, we don't know what's happening with AJ Lee, but, thanks for coming, I guess. I guess they brought her back for like a nostalgia thing, and now she might go away and do something. And we'll talk about CM Punk, whether he does the same later on. DJ, anything to add on this one?
I think the timing of AJ leaving is kind of fucking bad with Paige returning. That could have been the one more big money match you got out of her before she left.
History's there as well in terms of, Paige beating AJ in her debut. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much the same with these guys. Not really, nothing really too much to say about this match. Right winner. They didn't do anything egregious. I agree. 8 minutes kind of fills what we needed to get out of this match. But what kind of the theme of night one? Why couldn't we do this on Raw or SmackDown?
Yeah. Yep. And now we are 4 matches in. And, I guess anyone who didn't watch WrestleMania who's listening to this, for example, as a recap, you're probably not feeling there's probably not a WrestleMania feel energy coming out of it, is it, in terms of what we're describing when on the show?
Oh, hell no.
I'd say until we got to this match. Gunther versus Seth Rollins.
Before we get,
go on.
I do want to I forgot to mention an honorary mention to Lash and Nia with the tribute to Demolition with their entrance outfits. That was pretty cool.
That was cool.
That up.
Yeah. Gunther and Seth Rollins. This went 17:52, and I think this was the right move. Now, this one, wrestling's such a weird thing because this one has kind of been built out of the blue, under pressure, backs against the wall because of injuries. They've thrown something together, and immediately in 2 weeks, based on, what they had to work with, they kind of built something that made sense and ended up being a great match at WrestleMania and was probably the best thing on the entirety of night one. DJ, do you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think with how low the build was, how low the expectations were going into it. I know people knew that it wasn't going to be a bad match on the card, especially with the two people involved. Nobody thought it was going to be as good and as physical as it was. Like, especially it being Seth's big return match from injury. It didn't look like he lost a step or was worried about anything. Those guys looked like before they went out there was like, we're just gonna beat the shit out of each other, and we'll apologize to each other later, because that's exactly what they did. Chops galore, slams, fighting on the outside. They kept it at a nice quick pace to where you can't take your eyes off of it until Gunther took over to get the heat, which made sense. Again, there is a logical formula you should follow for wrestling if you want shit to work. There isn't no modern way to do it. There isn't no newer version to do. There's always been one way to get wrestling over. And if you follow that formula, it will always work. So, like, that's what these two did. There was clear babyface, clear heel. And everyone knew Braun Breaker was going to return. And you know what? Sometimes the most expected thing isn't always the wrong thing to do, because everybody saw him running 22 miles an hour down that ramp, spared the shit out of Seth, threw him in, and exactly how I predicted, Gunther got in behind, choked the hell out of him, put Seth to sleep. And it protected it to a lesser extent. It protects Seth. It moves Seth away immediately from Gunther. They don't have to rematch it immediately because Seth's got new problems on his table. And it gives Gunther his first WrestleMania win.
Yep. And we'll definitely talk more about Gunther later on.
Second win.
Or second you're
win.
right.
Second one, yeah, because he beat he won the triple threat. Kephfas, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, definitely best match of the night, I would say. Very predictable. We all knew Braun was coming. They stayed consistent with whatever fragments of kayfabe are left by having Gunther choke him out. So, there was, for being a match that was put together last minute, it had somehow more consistency than any other match on the card. So they did a really good job with it.
Yeah, I think they did everything right with this one in terms of, what they did in the ring, how they protected Seth, the finish. What about you, Brandon? Anything to add on this one?
When you have guys like Seth and Gunther, you're going to have a good match no matter what. They're just that good. So even if there was no story and it was literally like, an open challenge type thing, and then you saw Seth return instead of like anything leading up to it, they were going to have a great match no matter what. It was what you expected. It was old school, It was like DJ had said, you know who the bad guy was, you know who the good guy was. We all knew Braun was going to return. So in that he did, and then they had their viral moment where he charged down the 75-yard, barely hitting the spear.
The second one barely hit. The second one,
yeah,
he didn't even fucking
one.
touch him. He just did the fucking flip with it, and I hate
the running hug.
Angle they did. The initial angle they shown was really bad, but the second angle they shown looked like he got him a little bit before the flip.
Yeah.
So like, I agree. The second spear was shit, and I think he should just start doing what Goldberg used to do and just fucking take people out and apologize later. I think it would look better. Don't do the Bobby Lashley style. I never liked the Bobby Lashley style of spear.
That's what he was doing, though. That's what he was doing early on.
Because it just doesn't look as it looks more work and less devastating when it's supposed to be a devastating move from this big fucking football player looking motherfucker.
What were you saying, Kephfas?
I was saying, but Braun was doing that early on. Like when he first showed up on the main roster, he was spearing the hell out of people.
In NXT, he wasn't though. In NXT, he was hitting motherfuckers with that Goldberg type of spear, and it looked a lot more devastating when he would take people out. Even with the speed spear, when he speared speed, he didn't do the flip.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, his first several months, they were devastating spears. Like he was doing them legit. They legit looked like they hurt.
They've cooled him off.
They
definitely.
they must have said something to him at some point, and they're like, "Hey, dude, you got to tone it down a little bit. Still make it look as real as possible." But yeah, when he first hit the MR, dude, that guy was. I mean, those spears were legit.
Do you remember when he was having squash matches, and he had that one squash match with Cale Dixon where he beat him, and then he just beat the hell out of him afterwards. and it was
How do
kind of
you
his like
remember
breakout.
a jobber's name?
He's on
The hell?
NXT. He's on NXT. He's in Chase U. Leave me alone. So yeah, so basically he basically speared the shit out of this guy after the match, and it was kind of like his breakout thing of where he was fed up of, in kayfabe, he was fed up of doing job matches, and he really nailed this guy with those spears, and it looked like Goldberg and Nunzio all those years ago. But at some point, they've obviously told him to tone it down, I think.
I think it might have been after the speed. I show speed at the Rumble. And
But yeah, 'cause he hit him side
I
on with
think
that one as
so,
well. Yeah, he hit him side on with
think
that as
so.
well.
Yeah,
But
That was
even
a
then,
nasty
like I
one.
said, I in terms of like the visual, I've never liked the Bobby Lashley style of
No.
spear. Like it just there's a few of them in TNA that actually look kind of good when he does the flip after.
Like
But
Moose?
most of the time, you could tell he's doing the flip as he's hitting the spear. So you're like you know he's not getting all of it, and you have to hit like in terms of shooting it with a camera, you have to hit it at the right angle, or it's gonna look like shit.
I would think the way he's doing his spear now and the way he's been for a little while, a little while with the flip, that's probably more dangerous somehow.
For him.
For him,
Yeah. So it's like I don't know. I mean, somebody having slightly sore ribs, I think, is a little bit better than this dude risking breaking his neck every time he spears somebody. But I don't know.
agree.
What do I know?
not even breaking his neck, but we saw something so simple with Bronson Reed. He went to break up a pin and he tore his bicep. By doing that, you're not getting the full shoulder. You're getting just the arm. So you're endangering, maybe pulling something on the arm. And then as you're flipping, we've seen a couple of guys between like Penta and Dominic, simple bumps like that. They've, hurt their shoulders. So, it's
or
like,
like I said, Big E broke his neck, or not his neck. Well, kind of, yeah, he broke his neck on a fucking doing a overhead suplex, something kind of the same type of bump.
so
Yeah,
I just think
instead of being on head.
I just think a regular hard shoulder to the midsection spear. Plus, it looks good. The flip, like the Bobby Lashley flip. It never sold for me.
No.
But as far as the match itself, it was good. I wasn't expecting anything less. I thought Seth was gonna actually wrestle with the black eyes. I was actually when he came out, but I had no problem with the match. It should have been like the most wrestling match of the show because those two are the most wrestlers. So, and again, it leads to two different stories
Mhm.
coming out of it. We got the favor with Gunther, and then we got, finally, the vision explode, the vision explodes.
Brother.
So, yeah. So, so we got two paths now that, obviously something that happens in night 2 will now affect the Gunther thing, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very impressed with all of this. I thought it was handled very well and easily, for me, the best thing on night 1. Then we went into Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer. So Liv Morgan defeating Stephanie Vaquer. There's a bit of contention on how long this match went. Some say 6 minutes, some say 9 minutes. I don't know. But I think we know from today's reports that both these ladies were banged up going into the match. And therefore, I think the report says, whether you want to believe it or not, that the match was kept short to protect both from any further damage. Again, I think before we knew that and the match itself, I was quite disappointed. And I was definitely expecting more. And I think this one, out of all the matches we've had, probably felt the most affected by it being too short. And it just kind of felt really abrupt, and I didn't really feel much fanfare for Liv winning, even though it's what we all expected. And I was not a fan of her entrance either. I thought it was terrible.
Trouble.
Fuck you. Listen, I
Trouble,
was okay
trouble?
other than her soft grinding on the guy half the fucking time. The song's catchy as shit.
All right.
Okay, I don't care what no one says.
How high were you, bro?
There you go.
was
Kephfas, do you want
fucking
to
ripped at
back me
that
up on
point.
this one, Kephfas? You can kick us off.
Dude, that shit was cringe, man.
Thank you.
And the audience was quiet. The audience was dead silent. They're all trying to figure out like what the hell is going on? Why is this going so long? It was dead silent. The match was okay. I think it had an abrupt finish. 1 second you had Stephanie doing like a splash off the top turnbuckle, which was a really nice splash actually.
Mm.
And then she did her little emote, her little Dominic Mysterio emote. And then literally like 5 to 8 seconds later, she's pinned. She lost.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does. Of course, she got pinned and lost, but it's like, I don't know. It just kind of caught me by surprise. Honestly, I thought it was a very poor finish.
Yeah.
See,
And
I disagree. I think technically the match was possibly Liv Morgan's best match in terms of, because usually, how do I say this without sounding like a dick? Liv sloppy, not like Nia Jax sloppy, but like she does have like get sloppy sometimes in the ring, to where this one was more technically excellent. Stephanie was the perfect opponent for her to help her get her shit in and show that she can wrestle. The heel stooges came in to help her, distract Stephanie and get her mind off the ball, help Liv get the good win. I think it could have been a little longer in hindsight. We don't need Bianca's pregnancy reveal. Let's be honest. She could have did that on Instagram, Twitter, or on WWE World or somewhere else, not on this show. This, because that to me was like the equivalent of John Cena proposing to Nikki Bella on WrestleMania.
I'm
And
gonna clap back on you that in a minute.
but like I don't think we needed that moment. We could have gave the Stephanie Liv match an extra 10, 15 minutes to at least sell their story a bit more. I understand they were trying to protect them from injury, but as a world title match, they needed slightly more time to tell a better story. But I wasn't upset that it ended in the abrupt fashion that they did, because they left room open for a rematch. They kept Stephanie looking strong, and the right person won the belt.
One thing I'll add is there like a couple minutes into the match. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes, maybe not even 5 minutes. I forgot what Stephanie did, what move she pulled on Liv, but she like looked at the referee with like in disbelief, like, oh, what do I got to do to beat this chick? It's like,
I think that was after the top rope thing.
Was it? No, I don't.
No,
was it her backbreaker, wasn't it?
Backbreaker.
Yeah. I think it was
Yeah.
But it was like what, 3 to 5 minutes into the match.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do I got to do to beat Liv? Go longer than 3 minutes. Like you gave a look of disbelief about like how you haven't beaten her in whatever 3 to 5 minutes. I don't know. I just think the storytelling was just not good in that match. Not for a WrestleMania match.
No, and I feel like everything was short and still felt rushed. It felt like we got the worst of both ends here. Like it's fine if everything else is really long and you've got to rush this match in, fine, but it still felt rushed despite everything else being quite short.
We got to rush this match. We got to get 18 commercials in.
Exactly. Yeah. Brandon, what do you think?
First thing I want to point out is, and this was the entire 2 nights, and it's a logistics thing. I think a lot of the entrances didn't have the luster they had because they were on the West Coast and it was bright inside the place. It wasn't like a dome where there was no sunlight coming in, where you can control the environment. Like I noticed it with like Oba's entrance. It didn't have the same thing because it was, it's like the Undertaker coming out while the sun's still up. It loses like the luster. And I think that might have been something. I'm not saying that song would have, brought people to their feet and the whole dance number would, but I think, it might have had more of an impact if you could control the lights and the way, it could have had a spotlight or, some bullshit like that. As far as the match itself, shout out to Dr. Gina. She kind of called it on Saturday that maybe they were protecting Liv because of her, her head injury. I didn't know that Stephanie was banged up as well. The match could have gone longer. It would not have hurt the match, obviously, to go longer. But I'd also am not crying about the fact that it went 6, 9 minutes, whatever it might be. I get what Kephfas is saying. Stephanie was just, doing what you do during a match when you hit like your finisher. It's like, what do I have to do to show the disbelief? But yeah, it's not it's not for the speed title. So, it's like, but right person won. There's more meat on the bone with Liv as the champion, with, the eventual breakup of the Judgment Day, than, what we do with Stephanie. I wouldn't be mad if Stephanie took, a couple weeks off, kind of reset on her character and what we're doing with her, because, her title run, as good as Stephanie is, there's just something missing and I don't know if it's a storytelling thing, if it's a character thing. There's definitely something that needs to be reworked with Stephanie.
I think it's a character thing.
And they definitely need to, revert back to her old music or completely
Yeah.
give her something completely new.
I think with Stephanie, for me, Stephanie, it's definitely a character thing. And I feel like the best use.
It's the same thing with Julia.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's not, the skill set. It's not the work rate. It's just not connecting correctly. And not as much with Stephanie, because Stephanie, I think, connects more with the audience than Julia has. But there's still something missing. Like, she doesn't have a character. And I'm not saying you have to have a gimmick, but she has to have a character.
I think what would suit Stephanie for me is, I think, and I'm going to pay homage to our friend Dylan here, but I do think a heel turn would actually benefit Stephanie Vaquer because, when you see how she's been acting in this feud, like, she's vicious on television, and she can be vicious, and I think it really suits her. So I would like her to just maybe do a heel turn, just be like an assassin, just kick people's ass, because she's one of the best workers in the company, and just kind of play into that. And if you just have her as this kind of, I don't say like a Gunther IC title style, but something like that, where she's just, maybe she goes to the IC title workhorse, really kind of gives that title what it needs, maybe wins it from Becky. Just something like that, because I understand why they've put her as a babyface, because they want to make her marketable and sell loads of merch and stuff, and they've probably done that. But anyone else got any more thoughts on this or the outcome and going forward for both?
How do you personally feel about it, though? The one thing I wanted to clap back on what DJ said is I don't think the pregnancy announcement coming up had anything to do. Like, I don't think they lost time because of the pregnancy announcement. It's WrestleMania. I mean, you're going to tell me 5 more minutes?
No, my point was take the time away from that to give them. I'm not saying they lost time. I'm just saying that was definitely a little pointless, kind of like the John Cena, Nikki Bella fucking proposal.
Right, but in defense of Bianca, and I guess we'll just transition into this, Zeus, because that was
it
what
was next. Yeah,
is I feel Bianca has a connection with the audience, with the WWE universe, and it meant something to her to reveal this in front of everyone, and it wasn't just, an Instagram post.
They had 3 hours of the fucking pre-show. They could have did it then.
It's not the same thing in front of the audience, though. She wanted to be in front of the audience.
She could have went out with John Cena when he opened the fucking show and just did it then and get it out the way.
But it's still the same amount of time. But it's still using the same amount of time. Whether you did it at the beginning of WrestleMania, or you did it when John Cena was talking about
it definitely would have been drastically less time. It was 15 minutes towards the end of the show because they were stalling more time for the main event, because the main event had a 45-minute downtime between the end of the bell of the match beforehand and the beginning of the bell of the main event. So you had 45 fucking minutes of sitting there of just constant downtime in between matches. You can't give your women's world title match at least 5 to 10 more minutes of that to at least highlight and encapsulate that story. And again, if all she needed was 10 minutes, she could have got 10 minutes before the show with Cena, because John was already out there in the first fucking place anyway.
Well, now we know
twice in one night.
Now we know that the Liv Steph match was probably this short deliberately because of, medical reasons. So it probably wouldn't have made a difference anyway. But we did get to Bianca coming out, and everyone I was sat with watching this in my living room was saying, "Well, look what she's wearing. She's pregnant. She's pregnant." Everyone was kind of
immediately. The second I seen her come out, I was like, pregnant.
Oblivious to that. I thought it was just one of those outfits we've seen.
I did as well,
because we've seen Jade wear those kind of outfits, that are
when have you ever seen Bianca, the physical marvel that she is, hide herself, any part of her body, or is she not wearing anything to flex those fucking muscles, flex those abs, show a little bit of those cheeks?
I actually thought they were going to do an impromptu match. When she said she got something, another surprise, I thought she was taking it off to have her gear, to have some sort of open
she
challenge.
She was blown up on the promo. I knew it was because Montez gave it to her too hard and put one in her.
Well, all I know is that as soon as this happened, my prediction for Jade and Rhea changed immediately.
Yeah. That screwed me. Let me just tell you, that screwed me. I was in the finals on a prediction league on a Facebook group, and that screwed me. That I was.
That's what happens, man.
It was down to the Rhea match, and then I saw that. I'm like, oh, I'm not winning. At least I got one win over the
It's a
weekend. I
wild
couldn't
card.
get two.
Kephfas, how
two.
was this? How was this received in the stadium? The Bianca pregnancy announcement.
That was good. She didn't get a massive pop or anything. She got a pop, but just nothing crazy. Yeah, just looks of shock from some people happy. I personally like when they do this type of stuff. Like, women they should highlight this part of women's lives personally. Like, they're women at the end of the day. They get pregnant. It's not anything you should hide from people. It's something you should celebrate. So I think, me personally, I kind of disagree with everyone else. I think it's not a necessary part to the show. I knew when she came out, she was already going to pull there's no WrestleMania without the EST line. She does that every year.
Yeah.
So I know, I think more than anything, they probably brought her out not for the announcement, but just to let the fans see that she's in good health and that she, there's not something suspect going on with her. I think that's probably what the intention was.
Yeah, she has been sorely missed, and she's going to be sorely missed again. So she'll be gone for another extended period of
Montez
time.
didn't sorely miss.
Yeah, he did not.
We'll see a Royal Rumble 2028.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my prediction right now. Bianca returns Royal Rumble 2028.
Who does she face though, Rhea or Jade? No, I'm serious. Who do you think would be in position by that point? Do you think Rhea still has the belt and Bianca returns for that?
They have to do Bianca Rhea at some point. They can't not do that match.
Or do you think that they're just going to try to get the Jade thing over and done with?
Talking 2 years from now, a year and a half from now. So who knows where, the landscape is going to be at that time,
No, I'm saying, do you think Rhea's going to have a year-long title reign?
No.
Oh, no.
She's not 100%.
No.
She's not as over as she used to be.
Not as a babyface, no.
We'll get to that. We're going to move on to the night one main event, which was one of the strangest builds to a WrestleMania match I've ever seen. Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton with Pat McAfee. I'm not even going to give my thoughts on this one. DJ, do you want to start us off on Cody Rhodes retaining against Randy Orton, which I don't think anybody had in their predictions that we're aware of. But
so with this match, first off, I want to state this is the second year in a row where not only a Cody Rhodes match sucked, but the crowd was booing him out the fucking building. Like, I think the AEW syndrome for Cody is starting to come back and rear its ugly face, because he's starting to get those exact same reactions for the exact same reasons. People are tired of Cody's bland ass booking. It's not consistent. It really makes any more sense. And a lot of it gets rinsed and repeated. This specific feud, they tried to do something drastically different and did all the wrong things. I also, watching this match, thought they were doing a double turn.
Yeah, same.
Obviously, they were doing a double turn. Cody's working working over Randy's back, being kind of heelish. Randy's getting the big babyface comeback. I said the exact moment that Randy would be kind of turning babyface if he RKO'd Pat McAfee, and that happened. So essentially, Randy's a babyface now, or at least that's what I'm thinking before the match ends. Cody gets him from behind, kind of a heel thing to do. Get the babyface while he's distracted. Hit your finish. 1, 2, 3. And at the ring of the bell, they effectively accomplished a double turn. Randy would have been the babyface. Cody would have been slightly more heelish, but not a complete heel. You could have started the heel turn before you kind of did the big thing. And then after the match, they undo all that fucking work. Have Randy beat the shit out of Cody to try to give Cody, the guy who was just healing on the guy everyone was cheering for, more sympathy by doing the move they all wanted him to do. I've never seen someone get their head kicked off and people just cheer for it. Like, and it's not like the person never did anything to deserve it. You know what I mean? Cody hasn't done anything in terms of kayfabe to deserve being booed out the building, or yay, he got kicked in the fucking head. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't understand why WWE didn't just go into it. I understand that they're trying to learn from their mistake last year with Cena, but I think this year you should have did the right thing. Give Randy the belt, give him the belt as a babyface, turn Cody fucking heel. Or if you were gonna have Cody win anyway, have Randy RKO McAfee, Cody turn around, kick Randy in the nuts, then Crossroads, then you got your fucking heel turn. And it kind of it returns, comes full circle because this time last year, Cena was the one kicking Cody in the dick. Cody learned his lesson. You know what I mean? It would have still told the story a more, you know, better story to the continuity. It just makes no sense to me. I don't know why the fuck they did any of this. And all they've done, at least in the past year, since John Cena's main event, has made Cody look like a bitch over and over and over again.
And it's not working. It's not working, no.
No, it's not. It's actually not working at all. I don't know if you guys did. You guys hear the fan reaction? One more time after he punted him.
Yeah.
And then Randy's face. If you look at it just for a split second, his face is like, "What the hell? Like, is this supposed to be happening?"
Well,
They're
I
trying to
think
force
Randy-
something that isn't working.
I also think Randy realized he kicked him too hard because
He
went
definitely
down and
caught him, didn't he?
No, he broke. There's videos, he broke character to check on Cody, like after he punted him, because I guess it was too snug, and that's why we've seen the orbital bone or the eye injury. I don't know how serious, how much is kayfabe with the injury, how much is legit, but he had a nice puffed eye.
Yeah. Kephfas, I just want to get your thoughts on the overall flow of the match, because I thought it was a bizarre way to play this out.
Yeah, this is a classic Saturday night main event. It's a match that you put on for the people, that goes literally nowhere, that has no rhyme or reason. That's exactly what this match was. It didn't make any sense. Pat McAfee comes out, slow counts. He could have did a fast count.
He could have done Nick Patrick, yeah.
Yeah. Slow counts. Obviously, he was given authority by somebody to be a referee, or so we thought, right? He slow counts it. He gets RKO'd towards the end of the match. Made no sense whatsoever. So Randy is RKOing him to appease the people or something, and that ultimately ends up costing him the match. There was hardly any wrestling in this match. It was a lot of limping around the ring. It was, both main events, although they were very, very different from each other, and I know we'll get to it later, but the night 2 main event I thought was far superior, but both of them, they spammed each other's finishers, which, it's like if it happens in one main event, okay, great, but like you're going to do it. It's just repetitive at that point. I would say though, my biggest gripe with the match, aside from it just not making any sense whatsoever, is that it had almost no wrestling in it.
Mm-hmm. There was a big stretch of this match.
Randy took a bump until like 5 minutes, like an actual bump until like 5 minutes in.
There was a big stretch of this match. The first, I'd say, this went 22 minutes, 44 seconds. I'd say the first 15 minutes of this match, I don't know if it was like for you in the stadium, Kephfas, the crowd was quiet. And it was only when Randy started bleeding that I think people woke up a bit, and then we started to see a bit more interest. But there was a long stretch of this match where, I mean, there were reports that Randy was legit hurt going in, but he was basically spent this whole match selling an injury, and Cody working heel on the babyface's injury. And like DJ said,
the stadium was loud. So this is one of the other matches I went through. I rewatched this match as well. Yeah. So, cause I missed a couple things in person. The stadium was really loud, but when I rewatched it, the stadium was dead silent.
Yeah, there were
a lot of boos for Cody. There are a lot of Orton chants. That's
what I think why they did it though. Because I was saying it all night. I'm like, yo, the crowd, the way they're miking the crowd sounded weird at first. At first, it didn't. At certain points, you couldn't hear anything. Like in the live entrance, you could hear reactions, but as you said, quiet as shit. So I think they did a lot of changing of how the crowd was mic'd to try to sell what they were trying to sell. Like they didn't want people to hear Cody being booed out the building
Yeah.
second year in a fucking row.
Well, if you guys go back and watch it, so one thing I noticed last night when I rewatched it is there were people behind the ring, like where green shirt guy sits, that were thumbs downing Cody Rhodes the whole time.
Mhm.
And you could see them boo, but you weren't hearing the boos audibly. So I think that they did something. They uh, they drowned out the sounds or something
They
because
muted the crowd mic. That's what
yeah,
it was.
they did because I'm telling you guys, he was getting booed and Randy was getting cheered pretty much the entire match.
Yeah. Brandon, what did you think of this?
I thought that at first I thought they were riding the ship because they had Jelly Roll take out McAfee at the very beginning before the bell even rang, so there would be no celebrity involvement. I think that was something that really got blown out of proportion the couple of weeks leading in. Everyone was flipping about but the celebrity involvement in WrestleMania, and there really wasn't if you think about it between the two nights, especially the second night. There really was not that much celebrities like everyone was talking about, like Celebrity Mania and all that stuff. So I thought they took him out. I thought that was going to be it. I thought, TKO got Pat McAfee to the dance, but then Hunter was going to take him out of the dance. The match itself, you know, is the injury to Randy's back legit? Did that hinder the match? Who knows? I know Randy has spoken about in the past since his back injury, he doesn't take bumps. Like he's adamantly avoided bumps. So, with the exception obviously of, he lands on his back for an RKO. But, I just thought the match, almost like last year, the match just didn't work for some reason. And I think it
Yeah.
brings a point to a conversation about Cody Rhodes. And,
Yes, thank
you
you. I
know,
was just about to say that. I think it's more of a Cody problem now to where Cody
is he overrated? Like, as a wrestler, not the character, but as a wrestler, is Cody frankly just is Cody a mid card guy?
Yes.
I think I think you're right. I think you're right.
Is Cody a mid card guy pretending to be a main event guy? As far as the wrestling itself, obviously he does the work, as being the face of the company, doing media, all that shit that he does. He busts his ass to do all that. But as the actual wrestler himself, is he just a mid card guy pretending to be a main event guy? And that's something that I think, next year I don't think we should have Cody anywhere near a main event.
Well, perception is everything, isn't it? I think if WWE and TKO tried hard enough, they could get anybody to be their top guy presentation wise. They could do the smoke and mirrors to make anybody look like the top guy of the company.
Whoa,
Yeah, right.
smoke and mirrors. Oh.
And I think you've got a point. I think Cody Rhodes is becoming quickly, what the opposite of Mr. WrestleMania would be. The inverse of that, the guy who just always shits the bed at WrestleMania. And, 39 and 40, was that carried by the bloodline? His first two WrestleManias without the bloodline have not been good, either going in and the actual night itself. So it's not a good look for Cody, whether it's his fault or not. It's not a good look. And these are attached to him. And what makes last year's look even worse is the latter half of John Cena's retirement tour was really good. And it was just the Cody stuff in the original that sucked at WrestleMania. Sorry, Kephfas, go ahead.
Oh, I thought Cena Cody was a better match, wrestling wise, at least in ring wise, a better match than this one. There was it just wasn't a lot of downtime. There was downtime, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't as much downtime like dilly dallying around the ring, trying to sell an injury, stuff like that. So I definitely I'm in the minority that believes that match was better than this one. By how much? Not by very much, but I do agree with Brandon about Cody. I think Cody lacks. So you can lack in-ring ability. All the greats have lacked to some degree in-ring ability, but what Cody really, really lacks is the ability to tell a story in the ring. Especially after what we saw in the Night 2 main event. Cody is not capable of pulling that off. At least that's my opinion on it. But I do think the match was not as good as last year's, and last year's was not a good match either. So, take that for what it's worth.
I think last year's is. I think a lot of the hate from last year goes into the finish, like the Travis Scott involvement, and I think that's where most of it comes from. I think the finish this year wasn't as bad as last year, but I'm kind of inclined to agree. Like the actual bell-to-bell Cena Cody last year was probably better than what we got here, because a lot of this match was just a slog.
And don't forget, we got a really great match between the two of them for SummerSlam. So,
yeah.
So whether it was last year's match had to do with Cena trying to, be the heel, and he
Ruin
couldn't
wrestling,
to be full Cena, and he was playing the heel to work a match a specific way instead of working it the John Cena way that we were able to get at SummerSlam. But it still doesn't negate the fact that, Cody has shit the bed 2 years in a row. And, thank God they had the wherewithal to make this night 1 and not night 2. Because if this was the last thing you're going to remember of, as far as Mania, that would have been bad. I mean, I think a lot of people's palates, and they're happy because of last night's main event, as opposed if things were flip-flopped.
Well, they were last year, weren't they? Like last year, it doesn't matter how good that night 1 main event was. All people remember is coming out of night 2 and how bad it was.
Right, which is why I always say that I don't feel night 1 is a true main event.
No,
because the main event is what you remember last. So, as far as the Pats coming back as the referee and getting RKO'd, I see a lot of people saying that they don't understand. It doesn't make sense. It does, though, if you think about it. Pat came in to try to cheat for Randy. He did a regular count. He didn't do a fast count when Randy had the chance. And it's Randy Orton. He's the Viper. He could strike at any time. So, he took out Pat. And Pat,
I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a problem with him taking out Pat because, again, that's what you do when you're turning babyface. I agree with you. It makes everything you laid out makes sense, but that also makes him the babyface. So when you go after the match and just start kicking the shit out of the quote unquote baby face to try to get some fucking heat back, you just unaccomplished everything you tried to accomplish with doing the Pat thing.
That's why it doesn't make sense, because the moment makes sense, but cumulatively, none of it makes sense. They didn't execute it properly.
It was all over the place.
It was a quadruple turn.
Yeah, it was like a M. Night Shyamalan novel. Right, so Pat McAfee is done now, according to him. He's been on his show today to say, wrestling is behind me. He said he would leave forever. Maybe his contract is up and they're just this is how they work him out, but I guess we'll see what happens. Cody and Randy are obviously both banged up, legit. So who knows what's going to happen? I wasn't expecting Cody to retain here, so I don't know where we go going into SummerSlam. Do you guys see this continuing now, obviously, based on what we've seen, Cody and Randy going forward?
You have to. The babyface won. I see no reason why it would just end, and that's some problem that I think that WrestleMania has been having, is that there's no end at WrestleMania in the last few years. It's just another stepping stone. Mania used to be the end of stuff. The Mega Powers exploded. That was the end. Eventually Hogan and Savage continued on, but that was the end of that particular story. Then we've had, Warrior and Hogan, that was a one-off, and it didn't continue on to a Backlash pay-per-view, so it's just, to me, it just feels like Mania is supposed to be the end chapter in the calendar year of WWE, and it's just not. It's just another stepping stone to the next show.
So I guess we're not getting this tag match between Jelly Roll, Pat McAfee, Cody, and Randy at Backlash.
I'm okay with it.
Dave was wrong.
In the first fucking place.
Dave Meltzer was wrong.
Let me talk about that too before we forget about. Jelly Roll did the worst ever fucking dive off of the table. He literally fell. He didn't jump. He just fell onto the other table, onto fucking Pat.
Macho Man-esque, wasn't it?
No,
all
Macho
right, guys.
would get more air.
We're going to get into night 2.
Jelly Roll got no air on it.
We're going to get into night 2. Night 2. So this is the second half of our A Tale of Two Shows. Night 2 only had 6 matches, but this will prove that quality is more important than quantity. We kicked off with Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar. Now, this, I think, was the most anticipated match going in. It was probably the most polarizing match going in. It was the shortest match on the card at 4 minutes, 46 seconds, but arguably the most impactful. Obafemi defeated Brock Lesnar. Kephfas, I want to start with you on this one because I know that you and I have had many conversations about this one in terms of how it could play out. How did you find this one? What did you think?
Yeah, I think with Brock retiring, I think it played out perfectly, honestly. I don't think so. The match was good, but I think what really amplified the match was Brock retiring. Honestly, that stole the moment. Everyone was in shock. Everyone, online, in person, everyone was in shock. That stole the moment, and I think without that moment, that match would have been good. It wouldn't have been great. That moment turns a good match into a great match.
Yeah, because it also gives you, I mean, from what we saw on screen, and we'll get to Brock's potential retirement very shortly. What we saw on screen was Obafemi retiring Brock Lesnar, which is a huge deal. He didn't just beat him, he retired him. So, DJ, what do you think? This is how we kind of wanted it to go, I guess. Expected
So
it to go.
the match itself to me was perfect.
Mhm.
I said this to me was the best match of all WrestleMania in terms of impact, in terms of star power, in terms of what you needed to accomplish. This felt like a main event to open the show. On the Brock retirement thing, I don't know if this is his quote unquote full retirement. I think this is him letting everybody know this is about to be it because the Gunther favor's still in play. The way commentary throughout the night, you were there in person, so you probably didn't hear the commentary throughout the night. They were highlighting the Brock retirement thing a little too much to the point where you're gonna think you have to think it's a work or somehow an angle leading up to his actual last match. Just also with how abrupt this came out. I think WWE is trying to play on that how abrupt AJ Styles' retirement was, how that kind of came out of nowhere, and they're trying to give you that same kind of shock factor in terms of Brock, because Brock's still promoted to show up tonight, to be on the show, to have a promo segment. You're not going to do that the day after you fucking retire to explain why you're retiring. Like that would make no sense. So this is where I think in terms of the Brock thing, it's going to be a work to set up his last match. The question is, are they going to stall it until SummerSlam to kind of give SummerSlam its own 2-night main event type deal, to where night one will have its own big main event and night two will have its own other big main event. But I don't think this is the end of Brock Lesnar, but I do think having that visual at the end did help get Obo over a lot more.
I would not be surprised if tonight on Raw, Brock comes out to do a retirement speech, and that's where we see Gunther. And Gunther saying, "You're not retiring without my say-so," kind of thing.
So,
No, I'm going to be the
on-
one to retire you. Yeah.
Somebody on one of my posts today posted a really interesting angle. They said that what if the favor Gunther uses is to call a match against Oba for retiring Brock Lesnar, and that would be the SummerSlam match. It'd be Gunther versus Oba. I thought that was a very interesting angle. Like, basically, you stole this moment from me, type of thing, and going after Oba. I thought it was very interesting. I don't want to see Brock, as one of the biggest Brock fans ever, I don't want to see him come back for another retirement angle. I think this was perfect.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they play out. I actually agree with you that I think if this is how Brock wanted to go out, and this is how he goes out, I think it's perfect. Because normally you would expect WWE TKO to milk this for all it's worth, announce it in advance, tickets, Brock Lesnar's last ever match, etc. But if this is how it is, and if this was his retirement, I think I prefer it this way. Because like Kephfas said, Brock Lesnar's one of one. So to have him retire and then come back and retire again to someone else, it kind of takes away the moment from Oba if you then give it to Brock. As if you give it to Gunther, sorry.
And I could see Brock coming out at SummerSlam, because it's in Minnesota, to be given like his Hall of Fame
Mhm.
like the Undertaker coming out or whatever, and it would be appropriate for it to be
It would.
Undertaker presenting him just because of the WrestleMania streak. But that's what I could see happening at SummerSlam. I truly hope he stays retired. I don't want
See,
to see him losing to Gunther.
my only thing is I don't think this is a full retirement just for the simple fact that it wasn't announced ahead of time. I don't think this is the way Brock. I disagree with you. I don't think this is the way Brock should go out. I think Brock is one of the exceptional cases where he should be allowed to go out on top the way he should, and I think it makes more sense to have him be the one guy Gunther doesn't retire.
No,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
I'm all
Him
for
and
that,
Gunther
DJ.
have the match at SummerSlam. Gunther thinking he's gonna send Brock Lesnar out, and Brock Lesnar proves destroys the career killer gimmick. He squashes Gunther on his way out. 1, 2, 3. Career
It,
killer's dead,
if that's the
and Brock goes
angle,
all on top.
I 100% agree with you. The
Mhm.
only thing that I think would ruin this retirement is if Gunther beats him at SummerSlam.
Yeah,
That's
I
like
agree.
that just doesn't make any sense. So, but I do agree with you on that 100%.
Yeah, I think the Gunther Brock match, it's not going to be. It's going to be difficult because what they usually do is Gunther makes them put their career on the line, which means they'd have to lose in order to retire. Whereas if Brock beats Gunther, then he doesn't have to retire. So they're going to have to work it around. But I agree that
Not
Brock.
really for Goldberg and Cena. They didn't do that because it was already being touted as their last match. They
Yeah,
were
but I
gonna
guess
retire no
yeah, but
matter what.
but if in that case, then Gunther isn't the career killer because the career is going to end whether he wins or not. You know what I mean?
No, I've always made no, but that's the point
Yeah,
I've always specifically made that Gunther really isn't a career killer because the only career he quote unquote killed was AJ's.
yeah,
Goldberg, he wrestled his last match. Cena, he was just wrestling his
hmm,
last match because they both were billed as their final match.
yeah,
So like, and he never really had the career killer gimmick in my eyes. But I'm just saying, in terms of if you're gonna keep into the continuity of what you've been doing lately, and you have to end it. You have to end this gimmick at some point. It's
yeah.
not like we're gonna have Gunther just face every guy, only face guys who's on the way out for the next 2 years, because then we're just beating dead horses at this point, and he's not gonna. It's gonna get him less over than more over. And I think if he puts over Brock on the way out, and again, Brock is so much of a beast and has been so much of that aura presence. He's one of the few guys in wrestling where you can throw the normal rule out and you don't have to have him jobbing on the way out. Even though, like I said, this over thing was possibly the most effective job in Brock's career. So
Time will
I
tell.
think if we're that's why I'm still thinking this is still a work though, because the commentary hammered it home too hard. They kept mentioning through it all night, doing video packages of Oba saying Oba beat Brock. Brock left his stuff in the ring. They were just if it was a real retirement, I feel like we would have known more about it ahead of time, and if it was more shocking, they wouldn't have just kept talking about it all night. Like I said, they kept hammering that point home for a reason.
Brandon, what did you think of this?
Okay. The mat, obviously, I said before, I felt Oba's entrance didn't have the same pop to it because you couldn't turn those lights off. He still got a great reaction, obviously. You got the usual Brock reaction. I like how they did the match because it wasn't the typical Brock just coming in to just start throwing suplexes around. It started off slow, the test of strength, almost at Hogan Rock, the way they started that match at 18. Um, you know, it threw Brock off his game. Oba made a mistake as the rookie early on. Early on, it was a 5-minute match, but you know what I mean? He got hit with the F5, but he got up to one knee, and then he hit the fall from grace. He got the pin. The reports are that no one knew that Brock was retiring. Triple H had no idea. So, and the one thing that I saw online that was interesting, and we're all been watching long enough, we know what this means. And I'm not talking about DX, but I'm talking about when a referee does this, it's legit. And that's something that he did to Paul Heyman
Mm-hmm.
in the ring. So, in wrestling speak, to me, I don't know if it's legit or not. And I like it that I don't know. I think to DJ's point about, that they kept bringing it up, I think it's because it's a big point. Brock Lesnar is retiring at WrestleMania. How do you not bring that up again? Especially the way WWE loves to tell, they go back and telling things that happened earlier in the show for people who have joined in later on. How many times have we seen like an opening segment on Raw and they show a video package twice during the 2.5 hours of that? So I don't think
No, but I'm saying that, like, for example, the camera shot, like, if you're paying attention to like, pay attention for production things. So when they went back to the shot of Brock just sitting cross-legged in the ring thinking before he did the retirement thing, had me thinking, A, they knew about this. B, this was planned. C, they're using this as some type of worked angle because it they're not going to keep shooting Brock at the end of the match just sitting there if they don't know about it. If they're not telling the director in the truck, hey, get this shot of Brock in the ring, this is about to happen.
they're not going to, but it's also WrestleMania. They're not just going to leave while Brock's just sitting there. They're going to wait for him to stand up and hit his music and walk out, So again, whether I would not be surprised knowing how wrestling works that it's not his last match, but at the same time, it would not shock me if it was his last match because pretty much Brock Lesnar calls his own shots.
Yep.
So, supposedly he picked Oba for this match specifically. We've known that Brock has refused to work with talents in the past. That's why they switched from Jinder Mahal to AJ Styles, right? 6 days before Survivor Series a few years ago, because he didn't want to work Jinder Mahal.
He knows his
Can't
shit.
blame him.
Yeah.
Can't blame him. But, I think if they didn't know about it is a feasible thing. I don't think Paul Heyman even knew about it, assuming it's legit. But the rule of wrestling is assume everything's a work until you know it's a shoot.
Well, I guess we're going to find out on Monday Night Raw tonight because he was
and real quick,
advertised.
right. And as far as that, DJ said that when has someone retired at Mania and shown up? Literally every time.
Mhm.
Flair showed up the Monday after for a tribute. HBK did after he retired. AJ was a couple weeks
But those
after
were
Royal.
all billed as retirements. That's my point. They were already planned as retirements, not an out of nowhere. Brock was already pre-booked for the Raw after, before we even knew all this was going down.
That
So
doesn't
that's
mean
what
that
I'm
he can't
saying.
just do a retirement speech. He can't just say goodbye just because he was
No,
booked.
but I'm saying they're not going to sit here and plan his retirement speech before WrestleMania, you know what I mean, and not bill it as his retirement speech. Like that's what I'm saying.
Right,
This has to be a work.
but again, if they didn't know that Brock was planning to do this, then they were just assuming Brock's going to be on the Raw after Mania, selling whatever happened with Oba. But now they got to switch it to, we got to give Brock time to say goodbye, whatever he wants to do. So I like that we're questioning it. I like that we don't know for sure. I like that we really haven't had anyone open their mouths in the dirt sheet space about it. So let's just go on the ride, see where it goes. But I'm in the middle where if it's one way, I'm cool. If it's the other way, I'm cool. And I do agree with everyone that Brock is the one guy or one of the one guys that does not have to lose on his way out. So if it leads to a SummerSlam match, even if it leads to a WrestleMania match next year instead, Brock's the kind of guy who could, you know, go out with, on his feet as opposed to on his back. I just think personally for me, because I think I've been saying this, is that Brock has had 12 years since ending the streak, and he's had that stock, and he basically gave that stock to Obo last night. I just feel that if he does come back for another match, it kind of takes away from the stock he put into Oba by being the guy who defeated the guy who is the 1 in 21-1.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the ladder match. Penta retained in what I thought was a very entertaining ladder match. And yeah, the first hour of this show was like, in terms of the free portion on ESPN2 or whatever it is, was really good. And I really enjoyed this ladder match. I was expecting just spot fest. I didn't really care who going in. That's what we got. Kephfas, what do you think of the ladder match? Sorry, Rusev didn't win.
Yeah, it was an entertaining match. You know, it was a little short for like traditionally speaking. I feel like I don't have any evidence to back that up, but it felt shorter to me.
15 minutes, 8 seconds.
Yeah, it just felt shorter to me. I think it was an entertaining match. I do think the all-star of the match was Rusev or Penta. Both of them put a lot of work in. But I think everyone kind of played a part, and it was, I don't really have any comments on it aside from it was a good entertaining match.
Yeah, there's not really much to say here, is there, in terms of stuff going in, coming out, because it was all kind of thrown together, and most of these guys probably aren't going to interact with each other coming out of the show.
Congratulations to Rey Mysterio. He didn't come out with any injuries. He didn't.
No,
break a
he
hip.
survived. We all predicted he was going to die or be.
He did hit his head pretty hard though on the.
Yeah, he smacked that ladder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now on the ladder is when he crushed Rusev in the ladder, he went forward and smashed into the ladder as he came down.
As far as the time for the match, it's because they were limited to that first hour. So I think, they had to make sure they were out by Easter time, and it'd be out by 7 to get back onto the app itself. So I think for that, they were limited where they didn't have that open space. Not that I think it was going to go much longer anyway. It pretty much went the way we've been discussing for the last couple of weeks. Javon got his Jeff Hardy moment.
Mm-hmm.
Penta kept it, not surprising.
No.
But, I didn't think I kind of felt bad for half the crew who didn't get, who got the jobber entrances for WrestleMania.
Especially Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee had the dragon wings on and everything. I felt that would have been really good on television.
I didn't even get to see that.
No, it wasn't on television.
Right. Like that, if that's on ESPN proper, that should have been at least, picture in picture.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they went full,
We didn't get it on Netflix either. It wasn't on Netflix either.
Yeah. So JD, Dragon, and Rusev got the jobber entrances, which, I guess will fall into the argument of, guys are getting jobber entrances at WrestleMania because of commercials. And, you kind of could understand that. But also at the same time, I think if it was just strictly on a PLE, we would have seen those entrances. But because of that limited time, because they only had the singular hour on ESPN, I think, they suffered because of that.
A lot of the entrances were pretty bad too. Like they weren't traditional WrestleMania style entrances. Some of the gear was different, yeah, but they I don't know. I agree with Brandon. I think the production aspect of it was completely underdone, I think.
Yeah, I do wonder if the being on the West Coast in daytime makes a difference. But they've been in LA for WrestleManias where they have made an effort. So,
but they haven't been in open stadiums where they've been in domes where you could kind of control it.
Yeah,
I mean, 31.
Allegiant isn't an open stadium. They're a closed stadium.
Right, but you still had the sun coming in. It wasn't completely blackened out.
There's a lot of light coming in at Allegiant.
We're gonna move on. We'll move on pretty quickly past this one.
I want to bring up one thing that I saw a lot of people complaining about the set, like that it was a pretty plain set. It wasn't like an elaborate set. So I just want to bring up that from what my understanding is they only had 6 days.
Yeah, because of Bruno Mars.
Right. So there was a concert the weekend before. So, I think the minimized set was because of that, not because, TKO got cheap or WWE's out of ideas and things of that sort. So,
no, and a set has never dictated how good a show is ever. Like WrestleMania 17 had a really terrible set. WrestleMania 34 had a really good one. Which one's the better Mania, do you think? You know what I mean?
Right, but it's also about the pageantry that you expect at WrestleMania. For
last year's set was great. Last year's set I think was one of the best they've done last year. Let's move on to Trick Williams and Sami Zayn. So Trick Williams defeated Sami Zayn in 7 minutes, 7 seconds. I thought this was the right decision. Again, I thought this was very short and kind of anticlimactic and not really anything afterwards in this match. So, we got to where we needed to go, I guess. But I don't really have much on this one. This was just kind of there for me in terms of what we were expecting. I don't know how you guys feel. Brandon, do you want to kick us off?
We could have done this on SmackDown. I feel if it was anyone but Trick Williams, I feel like it would have been on SmackDown. But they did have to give Trick that that Mania moment for, because he is going to be, a guy for the next few years who's going to be at the top. I was expecting a full double turn. Instead, we just got Sammy doing what Sammy does when he loses, just sitting at the announcer table, with
Looking
his hands
sad.
on his head. How did I lose? Again, this was a situation where there was a celebrity involved, but he wasn't involved, and I don't think he hurt the match at all. So I think he fit in with Trick, Trick's train. I see a lot of people like, well, I'm surprised we didn't get all the advertisements on that long train. You know, dude
Man, the
wipes and
Capital
dude
One,
wipes
yeah.
and yeah. So, but yeah, it was the right
Dude
call.
wipes.
It was the right
Dude wipes,
call. It
man.
was the right guy. It was the right guy. Would it have been better if it was a little longer? Maybe. Would it have been better if it was a three-way? Maybe. The question is, do we want to put people in matches just so they could say they're at WrestleMania? If
No.
there's a bigger story that could be told and have a better match down the line. And I know a lot of the talk on this match was about Carmelo Hayes, but the sad truth is Carmelo, while he's good in the ring, is very similar like Julia and Stephanie. He just doesn't have that character that's connecting with the crowd.
Yeah, not yet.
The crowd doesn't pop when he comes out. They pop for his moves in the ring, which is, very similar to Stephanie, So I don't think it's such a bad thing that Carmelo wasn't there. So, now we can move on to maybe doing Carmelo and Trick down the line. So,
How you feel? How you feel, DJ?
I think Carmelo and Trick would have been a better match, though, especially with the story in the history between them. Sammy was kind of shoehorned out of nowhere. I think this was one of the matches that definitely suffered from it went way too fast. This was way too quick for them. But it was a good moment for Trick. He's obviously over. I agree with you. The Lil Yachty as a manager didn't take too much away from it, even though I still disagree. Trick doesn't need a manager, especially it being Lil Yachty. But yeah, no, this match was pretty much one of the few nothing burgers on this night out of, in a trend of really good, exciting, big matches. This was really not it. I think people were the most thing they were really into was Trick's entrance. That's it.
Yeah, that was the best part of the match for me because largely quite forgettable. Kephfas, any other thoughts on this one?
Some fans were chanting, "We want Mello," but I do agree with Brandon. Carmelo's good in the ring. Is he WrestleMania caliber right now as far as storytelling, as far as build? I don't think so yet. I do think Carmelo versus Trick would have been a better match, but that one requires a little bit of a build. I know they have history, but it still requires, a build to reestablish that history. So I think that's something in the near future. I still don't understand why they put Sammy in, of all people. I think they could have rushed the title change from Carmelo to somebody else, like Alistair, somebody,
Ilya.
Ilya, somebody. I don't know why and I'm not even a fan of Alistair, but still, they missed an amazing opportunity for Sammy to turn. Sammy could have been put in the ladder match, by the way, because that's his forte, that's his specialty. And he could have turned on everybody in the ladder match. They missed a lot of opportunities. I think I know why, though. I think they just wanted to give the wrestlers their WrestleMania moment, and that's what Trick got at the end. So, because if you guys didn't notice, I thought there were going to be way more interferences throughout all of WrestleMania, and there really wasn't. There was a lot of clean matches, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but I think they dropped the ball in a big way. It's a very forgettable match. I'm happy for Trick. He's the right winner. But yeah, it could have been done on Saturday night's main event or a SmackDown or something.
There were three matches with interference. There was the Stephanie Liv, Jade Rhea, and this match.
Yeah, but I expected more matches with interference, honestly, a lot more. A lot of those are kind of predictable. We didn't get any.
Would you count Jessica Carr's involvement in the Becky AJ matches interference?
No,
because
she's
that's
part of
been
the match.
developing. Yeah, that's been developing over X. I'm sure they're gonna keep with that storyline.
No, the only reason I was just asking in terms of the continuity of my argument, just because there were like people getting involved. There were a fair amount of matches that had outside involvement for the finishes. I wouldn't say there wasn't really none, and not a lot of these matches were super clean. I would say for
I
the
think
most part.
the ones that mattered, I think, is the main event, for example. I was just so glad the main event didn't have any. But we'll get to that very quickly. But first, we're going to get to the Demon Finn Balor defeating Dominic Mysterio in a street fight, 10 minutes, 27 seconds. This was announced as a street fight on the pre-show for night 2. Nice to see the Demon back again. And the Demon actually won a match for the first time, I think, on the main roster since 2019.
Without Demonito.
Yes, without Demonito. I think we'll save him for the AAA shows. Kephfas, what do you think of this one? This was kind of, serviceable, I think.
Yeah, so it's always nice to see Demon Finn. I wish they would have kept it a surprise.
Yeah.
That would have been a huge surprise, actually, a huge moment. Gotten them a lot of views too. The match nothing crazy about the match. I mean, street fight or not, it wasn't anything spectacular for me. I think Dom was looking very, very sluggish. Right winner. But I don't really have too much to say about it. I liked seeing Demon Finn's entrance. That was cool.
I think to Brandon's point earlier, this is another one that kind of suffered from the lighting in terms of entrances kind of not coming off as they probably could have. What do you think of this, Brandon?
It was what it was. I think without the Demon, it could have been on Monday Night Raw tonight. Maybe we could have put, Io and Asuka in there instead. But, right winner moves forward. The only question is, where does each guy go from here? Obviously, Dom still got the AAA stuff to do. He's mega champion. Mega championship finally went global. Not like, those other times people claim AAA went global. But, that again, yeah, not much to say. I mean, at least they explained why JD didn't get involved because, he was banged up from the ladder match. Because it was a street fight. You would think of all matches, this would be one that legally people would get involved in.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, these two matches were both matches that could have been on their respective, weekly shows that really didn't need, the stage of WrestleMania. I think the only thing that gave it the WrestleMania feel was that it was the Demon as opposed to just Finn Balor.
Anything to add, DJ?
I think this match, this was a kind of match where I think it was kind of the bathroom break match of the night.
Yeah. Which
The
shouldn't be that
build-
way, should it? Because of the history between the two. You'd think it would have a bit more interest going in because how long the Judgment Day's been going and things like that.
Yeah, like the story definitely should have been better and give more interest, but I think they just did this match to try to, get the end of this story, get a new chapter for Dom, do something for different with Finn. I think this is a great way to get Finn away from the Judgment Day. And let's see what the future is for Dom. Do we have another Dom Penta rematch in the future, maybe? Or
I hope not.
I think Dom. I don't know. I like the fact that Dom bouncing in and out of the IC title picture is like the perfect place for him, and especially with some of these newer names like Javon, Elia, because they're going to be moving some of these guys around. Like some of these newer names, they need someone with Dom's cachet to help get them over to the main roster. Like that's what I think SmackDown is lacking in the mid card. They don't have that polarizing heel or polarizing babyface for the mid card that people can just revolve around him. He can be his own planet. You know what I mean?
I guess we'll see with the, I think post WrestleMania is refresh time roster wise, we hope. So we'll see what happens. Moving on to Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley for the WWE Women's Championship. This was way better than I expected going in. I don't think many of us had any interest in this going in, but this was way better than I expected. And also might have been Jade's best match so far. Kephfas, what do you think of this one?
So far ever.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I share the same opinion. Definitely one of Jade's better, if not best matches. Definitely a sleeper match. I didn't expect it to turn out the way it did. I thought it was actually going to be a botch fest.
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly. Um, I understand from a creative direction why Rhea won. I would have booked it differently. I would have put Jade into something else. But the WWE's Golden Girl has her title back, and for me, it was just a whatever match. I don't know. I didn't really get too much out of it, but it was better than expectations.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Jade winning was the right call, because I think going in, Brandon, you and I were talking about that Jade kind of needs this win more than Rhea from an optics perspective. Obviously, when Bianca came out, and Rhea might have won anyway, whether Bianca was ready or not. But what do you think of this, and what do you think of the result, and what going forward for both?
It was so much better than anyone expected, especially if you compare the build up to the match itself. The build up was WrestleMania night 1, the match was night 2, you know.
Yeah.
So, Rhea showed being the, I don't want to say ring general because, but she showed being the veteran. She
The
was
technician.
at the tech that was able to, control the match in as a veteran to more of a rookie way, not control the match as in like within the confines of the match. So was it the right winner? I don't know, because now we're still in the same spot because the SmackDown Women's Division is so weak. So now Rhea's going to go and be Roman Reigns because there's just no challengers.
Well, yeah, we're
You
gonna get
know,
Meechin and BFAB every week.
yeah. So and that's not on Rhea's. That's on WWE Creative's fault. Um, was it the right call with Bianca being out? Maybe, but I didn't expect Rhea to win. So I'm actually surprised she did. Where they go from here, I'm going to assume we're going to get a rematch. I mean, another match at Backlash makes the most sense on this one.
How about you, DJ?
So I agree with everyone's take that this was better than expectations, especially with the build. I think this is Jade's best match ever because she backed a lot out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said it initially last night during our show, she definitely showed that the performance center is starting to pay off for her. She's doing shit, like she's doing flips over the top rope. She's doing one-winged angels. She was, and it wasn't like she was just doing the moves in sequences. She was like, they seemed natural to her. She seemed ready. She knew, and selling too, she knew when to sell. This was the perfect Jade match. If there was, I honestly don't think she can have a better match than the one she had with Rhea. And I definitely think the dance partner helped. I think we all can agree that I don't think Rhea winning is the best thing for that women's division right now. And especially with and the thing that got me in this match, the one nitpick I have is the commentary where they were talking about Rhea's size and all that. And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, Rhea don't got that much size no more. And I'm sitting here looking at old pictures of mommy in her prime. Like Rhea was beefy, like super beefy. Like, and you look at her now, I wouldn't say she's a toothpick, but she's leaned down a lot. And that's, to me, I feel like takes away from the presentation of Rhea Ripley and the aura she has. And it takes away from the fact that she shouldn't be as dominant as she used to. You know what I mean? Because I feel like she's the playing field is a lot more leveled for Rhea. She's not, 5'7", 190, 200 pounds. You feel me? She's like 5'7" and maybe a buck 50 now. Like, I'm not trying to sound mean or anything, but like, I feel like the her losing size has definitely taken away from a lot of her aura that she used to have. And I feel like, if anything, now we should definitely be turning her heel, because now, since she doesn't have the size, she has to rely a lot more on the personality to make up for the lack of size that she has in the ring.
I think they did Jade dirty by having her come out first. her
Yes.
entrance was first. I think that was a dirty, dirty move because she could have
And to
had
tell,
she could have had her WrestleMania moment just in her entrance because she came out looking like $1 million anyways. So I thought that was really dirty because Rhea has had many moments and she's going to continue to have moments. But they had the champion come out first, so I don't.
They did this a couple of times because I think they did it with Sammy and Trick as well, where Sammy came out first as defending champion. It was very odd. But yeah, I agree. I think that, I think Jade, this isn't a good look for it. Despite how good she looked in the match, she's lost her first big title defense after 169 days of basically doing nothing with that title. Optically, it doesn't look good, but I guess we'll see where we go from here.
As far as the time conversation, this was the perfect time because this is like not wanting a Goldberg match to go 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's just 10 minutes, 8 seconds. Yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as the size, of Rhea, we do also understand she's going through something,
She is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not that she just decided to slim down for the sake of it or
no, I understand that, but
Yeah.
that doesn't take, just because she going through some shit ain't going to take away from the fact that she's lost aura. Her losing her size loses aura and it takes away from a part of her presentation. When you're sitting here trying to say on commentary and put over her size, like, that's where you start to lose me because she doesn't have that size advantage that she used to have. That stuff that you're used to putting over for Rhea, you can't do it no more. She's not one of the bigger girls on the roster. She's not one of the baddest girls on the roster because she's a babyface. So it's like I think Rhea needs something like more personality now, more than ever, to stick out and, stand out the way she should. Rhea Ripley is the top women's star on the planet. Okay. There's nothing I can take away from that. But I do feel like Liv's right there. It used to be that Rhea was on top and everyone else was down here. Now it's Rhea's right here. Then you got Liv, Stephanie, Soruka. Like, everyone's starting to catch up to Rhea, and it's not due to Rhea, everyone catching up to her level. It's due to Rhea coming down a bit. You know what I mean?
I have a real quick question on the Brock thing. Would WWE release Thank You Brock shirts if it was not legit? Because they have Thank You Brock shirts on WWE Shop.
They do. Yeah, I just seen that.
So
I think they would.
Well, Obafemi is
legit.
Obafemi is opening tonight's Raw, by the way. So I don't know.
I think the best move to do.
Yeah, I think so. I'm surprised they're not opening with Mr. Roman Reigns, which leads us nicely.
You got to put him in the main event.
That's his wheelhouse. Roman Reigns defeated CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship in 33 minutes 56 seconds.
We're not going to talk about WrestleMania Housing.
No,
let's talk about.
Are
we going to talk about Little Manhausen? Are we going to talk about that?
Fuck no! Skip that. Shut up, Brandon.
All right.
Time.
All right.
That. You want to talk about Danhausen?
Guys, I'm tired.
Talk about it in the fucking mirror.
I'm tired. We'll touch on it, and if anybody wants to go and see it, I'm sure it's all over YouTube. So John Cena came out. He was interrupted by The Miz and Kit Wilson, and then Danhausen came out with a load of midgets. That's what they were requested to be called, dressed as Danhausen.
Yes, you're not going to get canceled.
Yeah.
Peter Dinklage is pissed.
Oh, he's always pissed. And there was a back and forth. We had the Danhausen John Cena interaction, which we all thought, but I don't think any of us expected it to play out like this. Danhausen punched them both in the dick, and then the midgets carried Miz off to the back, a la Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker all those years ago.
See? So Danhausen still has the AEW stink on him because he's still going for dick shots.
Yeah.
And my own one thing on this is people got to understand WWE is wrestling, but it's also sports entertainment. Not everything needs to be serious. There needs to be some levity. People complaining about this are so stupid. They're just looking for something to complain about. I had no issue with it. I thought it was great. The crowd loved it. Danhausen got a good reaction. So for people to complain about this is just, you're just, screaming at clouds at this point.
This was fun. Kephfas, do you enjoy this?
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
My favorite part was Kit Wilson doing his little stupid dance and then getting
So
punched in
good.
the nuts. It was pretty funny.
Just him shouting at a midget saying "you are toxic," and then when he does, he like flex and his hips direct. It's so funny, man.
It just broke the monotony of the show. You know, it was fun. I thought it was a fun segment.
And I think you could tell Cena was legitimately, having the time of his life during it.
All right,
You're just
all
mad.
y'all.
all right. Let's get to the main event. I just want to say that I think Kit Wilson has done a fantastic job with this gimmick
No,
he's currently
listen.
doing.
I'll say this. I agree that Kit Wilson and The Miz, everyone did a good job at performing what they were performing. But again, my argument, Brandon, is more valid now than more than ever. Danhausen is
Here it
way
comes.
more important than
Here it
Royce
comes.
Keys.
I knew
And
it.
Oh,
he's
I
dead
knew it.
on fucking
Man, we got a
arrival.
Royce Keys
not.
mention. We got a Royce Keys mention on
literally-
WrestleMania.
The only mention you'll get of this motherfucker,
Did you read? Wait, did you read what I sent you today? All right.
So, would you have
Royce,
put Royce
just
Keys
really
in
quick.
this spot? Having little midget Royce Keys come out with him.
Can you imagine?
No, have Royce Keys come out and beat up the fucking midgets.
They wouldn't be there without Danhausen, though.
That's true. Don't worry, guys.
That's-
Royce Keys won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. He's fine.
And Royce said that he requested to work the dark matches to get used to the WWE way before the re-debut. And it's only been
Or-
2 weeks since the re-debut.
Better
And
idea.
he's
Put him in NXT.
okay, but they didn't. So you get over that. You got to move on. You sound like Leo with AAA. It's time to move
Put him in
on.
NXT.
We'll talk about this in a separate space. All right. Roman Reigns defeated CM Punk in 33 minutes, 56 seconds for the World Heavyweight Championship. I stuck to my bold prediction of CM Punk winning, even though every man and his dog had Roman Reigns winning. So I'll take the L on this one. I thought this was a fantastic main event. Two masters of their craft in terms of storytelling in ring. And I think the best thing about this is that there was no bullshit. There was no shenanigans. There was no overbookedness, no interference. It was just two guys. And I think that this probably, alongside Oba and Brock, was my match of the weekend. Kephfas, we'll start with you. How was this for you? Given that you have been in the stadium 2 long nights in a row.
Yeah,
What do you think of this?
It was a great match. Great in ring. It was great storytelling. I got to give props to CM Punk. Both of them, the synergy was there. Both of them, they couldn't have done it without each other. And I think, honestly, this is one of those types of matches where, the dog shit promos over the last couple weeks, in my opinion, at least, it synthesizes them perfectly. And it makes you understand why he was so pissed about being called old, which we had no real understanding of, just a couple of short weeks ago. I think it synthesized everything perfectly. I think it was a great match. Probably one of the better WrestleMania matches of all time. I'm not going to call it the best like some people have, but it was a very good match. Great storytelling, right winner. Roman's going to be going full time, at least through the summer. I thought it was a great ending to a great night of wrestling and a very poor overall WrestleMania. If you have one night that's bad, second night's good, I still consider that a poor WrestleMania because it's.
Yep.
I still don't consider the first night even a WrestleMania show, but I thought it was a great finish, and I have no complaints about it.
DJ, how about you?
So after I saw this match, I put this match in the same light as Flair and Michaels. Not in terms of the actual story itself, but the storytelling throughout the match. You know what I mean? Like, this was possibly one of the best matches WWE has put on in the past 5 years outside Drew and Roman, or Drew and Punk, I'm sorry. Like, the story was there, the work was there. Everyone was into the two personalities. I initially thought a babyface versus babyface match would have kind of killed some of the aura of this, but it didn't. Like, everyone was equally cheering for both guys throughout the entire match. I think the story that they told of Punk, you know, being the old guy and not being able to keep up with Roman, who's the younger version, is the perfect. That was the perfect way to beat Punk clean. Like in terms of a clean loss, it's not like Roman fucked him. It's not like there was a low blow. It was just a clean loss. And they rarely, it's rarely done right when someone just, you know, beats someone clean without, you know, burying them. No one was buried in this. Both guys still come out as over as they're going to be. No one's hurt. I don't think you can do a rematch ever, just with how the way it ended. Or if you do a rematch, maybe like SummerSlam just to give Punk his win. But honestly, I don't see the point of doing a rematch between these two. I think this should be a one and done. Maybe they tease something down the line where they're on the opposite end of War Games or something.
It was a passing of the torch match. I don't think they're going to do a rematch.
Mm-hmm. There's
Exactly,
two biggest guys in the industry and main eventing WrestleMania. I think it was just perfect crescendo. Brandon, how do you feel?
I popped for Miseria Cantera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
AFI. I knew they were going to fit it in sometime at some point because once it got okay to be on 2K26. But I thought it was it felt almost like a retirement for Punk. They were showing all the old pictures. They used from ROH and all those old days and stuff like that. But, the story, like you said, it was great. It was a matter of, there was no Usos involved. There was no, low blows, cheating. I mean, there was a low blow, but, for the end of the match, it was just, Punk's 48-year-old body gave out on him and he couldn't finish it. And that led to Roman getting the spear, the super spear, back and forth. I don't know why people are complaining about, the referee discretion when it comes to the ring steps. It's like now we're looking.
I think that was a great part of the story. It shows that referees can practice discretion for big matches like this. I think that fits right into a different story that WWE is telling. So I agree with you. I don't know why people are up in arms about it.
To me, it just feels like the match was so good and so perfect. They need to find something to complain about for the match to try to bring it down.
And they hate CM Punk as well.
Right, but this that wouldn't fall on Punk, but
No.
But to me, this was a perfect WWE match. Like everything about this is just what WWE and the way they tell their stories and put on their matches. This is exactly how it is. So
not even that. I think this was purely a wrestling. This is one of the few times in WWE where we got a wrestling match in the main event. This was a main event wrestling match. You could have put this match in any company, AEW, TNA, MLW, NWA, New Japan, anywhere, and it would, as the main event, it would get over. Aaron loves wrestling, even admitted he loved this fucking match. So that's how you know it would get over on fucking NWA.
Dude,
okay?
Juan admitted that they loved the match. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Meltzer,
Wrestling Observer, yeah.
I want to see the meltdown if Meltzer gives it 5 stars, though.
Oh man.
But I thought the match was great. There was nothing wrong with it. The entrances were, aura-tastic. The Roman doing what Roman does with his aura. They went back to his original, tribal chief music. I never liked the babyface version of his music, so I'm glad they went back to that, the original tribal chief one. Like I said, Punk's entrance, he was paying tribute to the guy in the band who was close with Brody King, who just died. Bo, I don't know him that well. He had on the side, the 3 people from WWE's production who just recently passed, and of course Larry. I thought it was great. Even the little things, like when Punk was jumping off the top rope, he touched his chest, where normal people would probably do like the cross. But I don't know if anyone knows, he got a small tattoo for Larry right there in the middle of his chest. So he kind of was saying, "Larry, protect me" type stuff. So I have nothing bad to say about it. Right guy won. I agree. Like my point with the Cody thing, where it's going to continue on. This is something where WrestleMania is supposed to be the end of something.
This
so there should not be a rematch. And honestly, Punk shouldn't win the title again. He doesn't need to win the title again. He got it, whether he was supposed to get it, whether he only got it because of Seth's injury, it doesn't matter at this point. It's just everything for that main event was what WrestleMania should be.
So I think Punk should win the WWE Championship at some point, from Cody at least. He should definitely, I think, with how they told the story between Cody and Punk, that story between those two, that rivalry, kind of needs the belt for it when they do eventually pull it off. I think Punk should be the one to take the belt off of Cody at some point, even if it's at a SummerSlam or something. If we're looking for a big match for Cody for SummerSlam, I think we should build, and we're done with the Punk Roman stuff, and Roman's most likely going to be the world champ till SummerSlam. Why not put Punk on SmackDown, heat that division up? Because it looks like Oba's going to be on Raw, not SmackDown.
Right.
So if Oba's on Raw, you can move a couple stars over to SmackDown. I think that's kind of the mission for 2026 is to get Raw and SmackDown somewhat back to even, to where, I know Raw is kind of the A show, but they want SmackDown to definitely be presented and sought out as equal. So if you're going to do that, try putting slightly more star power onto SmackDown with the Cody Rhodes of the world, like a CM Punk or maybe a Jey Uso. Like I said, I feel like the next few weeks, you're going to see a little bit of shuffling of the rosters of people moving shows and stuff. And because Rhea's going to SmackDown now too, since she's the SmackDown champ, you would assume. So
Right.
I feel like tonight, going into Backlash and stuff, we're going to start seeing a lot of, intermingling of the rosters and intermingling of some storylines to try to transition people onto other shows.
Plus call-ups.
Yeah, call-ups. And that should start tonight, I think. I think we might get Joe Hendry on Raw tonight. But we'll see. That's a wrap. That is it, guys. Anybody want to bring up anything else from Mania that we haven't covered?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
My
I think
best friend in the world, SRS, can't sell a super kick. Other than that, that's it.
There you go. Cheap plug for Sean Ross Sapp. Love it. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you do like the content, please give us a like, a subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts on WrestleMania. DJ, Kephfas, Brandon, and also, yes, there we go. DJ and the Heel Show regularly on Twitter Spaces. Sundays.
We're also on YouTube and Spotify, so you just got to search that up. Or
And
follow
follow
me at Brandon the Heel. All the links are in there. Cheap plug.
Yep.
Bang,
Follow
bang.
us on social media. But Brandon, DJ, Kephfas, thank you very much for joining me on Zeus Backstage, and I will see you guys next time.
Take care, guys. Thanks for having us. See.